The worst thing my family ever said to me wasn't that they hated me. It was much simpler. They called me selfish. And they said it while sitting around the dining table in the house I had secretly been helping them afford. My mother looked at me with disappointment in her eyes. You only think about yourself now. My older brother Daniel nodded. She has money, Mom. She just doesn't want to help us anymore. I stared at them, almost unable to believe what I was hearing. For 5 years, I had been quietly paying their bills. The electricity. The groceries. My mother's mortgage. Emma's college tuition. Even Daniel's car payments. And now they were sitting in front of me, acting like I had abandoned them. The truth was, I wasn't rich. I worked 2 jobs. I skipped vacations. I rarely bought anything for myself. Whenever someone in my family needed help, I gave it. At first, I didn't mind. After Dad passed away, Mom struggled to keep everything together. Daniel was starting his own family, and Emma was still in college. I remembered sitting beside Mom one night while she looked at a pile of unpaid bills. I don't know how we're going to manage, she whispered. I took her hand. We'll figure it out. And I meant it. I started sending money every month. Sometimes it was a few $100s. Sometimes it was much more. Eventually, I stopped sending cash and started paying the bills directly. I never told them how much I was giving. I didn't want praise. I just wanted them to be okay. But slowly, my help became something they expected. Then one day, I realized I had almost nothing left for myself. I was exhausted. So I stopped. Not forever. I simply needed time to breathe. That's when the phone call started. Mom asked what had happened. Daniel accused me of changing. Emma said I had become arrogant. Then came the dinner where they called me selfish. I listened quietly. Finally, I placed my fork on the table. Before you call me selfish again, I said, you should check who has actually been paying your bills. Everyone froze. Daniel frowned. What does that mean? I looked at them one by one. It means you don't know the whole story. I stood up and walked away. The next morning, I opened my laptop. For 5 years, I had kept every payment record. I downloaded everything. Mortgage payments. Tuition. Utilities. Insurance. Car payments. Groceries. I put them all into one folder. Then I looked at the total. Even I was shocked. And I knew exactly what I had to do next. I sent my family one message. Come to Mom's house tomorrow at 7 p.m. You wanted the truth. I'll show you. I had no idea how much that one meeting would change our family forever. When Dad died, our family changed overnight. He wasn't wealthy. But he knew how to keep everything together. After he was gone, Mom struggled. Daniel was busy building his own life. Emma still needed help with college. And I was trying to create a future for myself. But every time I looked at Mom, I remembered Dad's final months. I couldn't let her struggle alone. So I worked harder. I took a second job. Then I started working weekends. Every payday, I transferred money to my family. At first, Mom would say, "Are you sure?" I'd smile and tell her, "Of course." I paid her electricity bill. Then her water bill. Then groceries. Later, I started helping with the mortgage. When Emma needed tuition, I paid it. When Daniel's car payment became difficult, I quietly covered that too. I never told anyone how much I was sacrificing. That was my mistake. Because people can become comfortable with something they once considered a gift. Eventually, nobody asked if I could help. They simply told me what they needed. Can you cover this? I need the money by Friday. The mortgage is short this month. And every time, I paid. Until one night, I looked at my bank account and felt completely empty. Not just financially. Emotionally. I realized something painful. I wasn't helping my family anymore. I was carrying them. So I stopped. I moved into a small apartment of my own. For the first time, I bought furniture for myself. I started saving money. I even planned a short vacation. I thought my family would understand. Instead, they became angry. Daniel told relatives I had become selfish. Emma said I had forgotten where I came from. Mom told someone that I had money but refused to help my own family. That hurt. More than any bill ever had. Because I wasn't asking them to worship me. I only wanted them to understand that I had limits too. But they didn't know what I had actually paid. So I decided to stop defending myself. I would let the numbers speak. The next evening, everyone gathered at Mom's house. Daniel walked in with his arms crossed. "What is this about?" Emma looked nervous. Mom sat quietly. I placed a thick folder on the table. "This," I said. Daniel looked confused. "What is that?" "Everything I've paid for this family over the last 5 years." Nobody spoke. I opened the folder. The first page showed Mom's mortgage. Then electricity. Water. Insurance. Groceries. Then Daniel's car. Then Emma's tuition. Page after page. Their expressions slowly changed. Daniel stopped looking angry. Emma stared at the papers. Mom's eyes filled with tears. And then I placed one final document on the table. The total amount. Daniel looked at it. His face went completely pale. "Is this real?" I nodded. "Yes." And for the first time, they finally understood what I had been doing all those years. The room was completely silent. Nobody knew what to say. Mom picked up the first few pages with trembling hands. "I didn't know," she whispered. "I know." She looked at me. "Why didn't you tell me?" I took a breath. "Because I didn't do it so you would feel like you owed me." I looked at Daniel. "Remember when your car payment was 3 months behind?" He nodded slowly. "I paid it." His eyes widened. "You?" "Yes." I turned toward Emma. "And your second year of college?" She stared at me. "That was you?" I nodded. She covered her mouth. For years, they had assumed things somehow worked out. They didn't know I was the reason. I wasn't angry anymore. I was just tired. "I never needed you to thank me," I said. "But I needed you to stop treating me like I had abandoned you." Mom began crying. "I thought you didn't care about us anymore." I shook my head. "No, Mom. I stopped letting everyone depend on me for everything." That sentence stayed in the room. Daniel finally looked at me. "Why didn't you just tell us you were struggling?" I almost laughed. "Because every time someone needed something, I thought your problem was more important than mine." He looked down. For the first time, I saw shame on his face. Then Emma started crying. "I really thought you were angry with us." "I was hurt," I said. "There's a difference." Mom reached across the table and held my hand. "I should have asked if you were okay." Those words nearly broke me. Because that was all I had wanted. Someone to ask. Not how much money I had. Not what bill I could pay. Not when the next transfer was coming. Just, "Are you okay?" I squeezed her hand. "I love you, Mom. But I can't keep doing this." She nodded through her tears. Daniel looked at the papers again. "So what happens now?" I leaned back. "Now everyone starts taking responsibility." He looked worried. I continued. "I'll help Mom transition. I'll help Emma finish college. But I'm not going to secretly carry everyone anymore." Nobody argued. Because the truth was sitting on that table. I had spent years protecting them from financial problems while hiding my own. And somehow, the moment I stopped, I became the selfish one. That night, I drove home feeling strangely peaceful. For the first time, I didn't feel responsible for solving everyone's problems. But I knew things wouldn't change overnight. There would be difficult months ahead. There might be arguments. There might be resentment. But something important had finally happened. They knew the truth. And now they had a choice. They could continue blaming me. Or they could finally stand on their own. I didn't know what they would choose. But for once, the decision wasn't mine to make. The months after that meeting weren't easy. Daniel struggled at first. Mom had to reorganize her budget. Emma found a part-time job while finishing college. Everyone had to learn how to live differently. And honestly, there were moments when I felt guilty. I wondered if I had been too harsh. Then I remembered the old version of myself. The girl who worked 2 jobs. The girl who skipped vacations. The girl who checked her bank account before buying herself anything. The girl who always said, "It's okay. I'll handle it." I didn't want to be that person anymore. Slowly, my family changed too. Mom became more independent. Daniel started making his own payments. Emma became much more responsible with money. And strangely, our relationships became better. There was less pressure. Less resentment. Less pretending. We weren't connected by bills anymore. We were connected by love. Almost a year later, we had dinner together. Mom cooked my favorite meal. Emma brought dessert. Daniel arrived carrying a small envelope. He handed it to me. "What's this?" "Just open it." Inside was a handwritten letter. I read it silently. It said, "We thought you were selfish because you stopped giving us money. We were wrong. You were the one giving everything while asking for nothing." I looked at Daniel. "You didn't have to write this." "Yes," he said. "I did." I smiled. For the first time, I didn't need them to understand my sacrifice. They finally did. Later that night, I drove home alone. The city lights passed outside my window. My phone wasn't ringing. Nobody needed a payment. Nobody needed money by morning. Nobody had another emergency. And for the first time in years, I felt free. That's when I realized something. Sometimes your kindness becomes invisible because people get used to receiving it. They forget that every time you say yes, you're giving something away. Your time. Your energy. Your money. Sometimes even your peace. And when you finally say no, they call you selfish. But saying no doesn't mean you don't love someone. Sometimes it means you finally understand that love needs boundaries. I still love my family. I still help them when I can. But I don't disappear inside their problems anymore. Because family should support each other. It should never mean one person sacrifices their entire life so everyone else can stay comfortable. So if you're always the one giving, always fixing, always paying, always saying, "Don't worry, I'll handle it," remember this. You are allowed to choose yourself too. Helping others is kindness. Destroying yourself to keep everyone else comfortable is not. My family called me selfish when I stopped paying their bills. But eventually, they discovered the truth. I hadn't stopped caring about them. I had simply started caring about myself too. And sometimes, that is the hardest lesson a family can learn. But it can also be the lesson that finally brings everyone closer.